Honey, the block is not the only thing that is hot because when I tell you that Alicia is about to set the whole city of Chicago on fire and walk away with nothing but smoke on her back, honey, she is indeed. Okay. Hey y'all, welcome or welcome back to my channel Reviewed, where we talk about all things television and film from today and yesteryear. So I wanted to come on here and do a brief recap of The Chi season 7 episode 10. So Emmett is looking up at Keisha, basically waiting on an answer from her. And she's like, can we have a discussion about this, but not in front of your parents? We need to talk about this at a later date. Like, I'm not about to answer no proposal question. And, for me, I was kind of shocked. I was taken aback that she did not say yes. But at the same time, I can understand that Keisha is probably looking at Emmett like, okay, you thought you was about to be up out of here. So now all of a sudden you want to get married, even though the audience, we know that this was a lead up for Emmett. We didn't know this was going to be the exact situation to make him propose to Keisha, but we have been getting, little eggs throughout the season about him, talking about marriage, with his dad and his brother, whatnot. Nonetheless, Keisha, she pretty much does not accept the proposal, and Emmett is in shock. And then, of course, Jada, she was like, can I talk to my son for a minute? I need to be alone with him. And she breaks the news to Emmett. And it kind of shocked me that she just basically told him so quick and fast. I'm like, girl, he's still in the hospital bed. Please don't let this fool go into shock. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't give him a heart attack because of the information that you're giving him. But, she went on ahead and let Emmett know what was going on with her. So here we are 3 weeks later, and Emmett, he walks into the room and he says to Keisha, you gonna marry me now? And Keisha was like, don't think that I'm gonna say yes to you just because your mom's dying. And I was like, well, dang, say how you really feel. So she and Emmett sit down, and Emmett basically says to her that he feels like he shouldn't even be alive. He was like, I don't even feel like I should be here anymore. And I think that kind of concerns Keisha because she does tell Emmett, she's like, I really want you to see a therapist, like for real, a real therapist. I guess she's saying like not that men's group, but like an actual person, because clearly he is going through some things. He literally was about to be on a permanent vacation with the Lord and he survived it, but now his mom is about to be. You know what I'm saying? So I do feel like Emmett is going to need therapy and he is definitely going to need someone to speak to so he can lay his burdens down. Okay. So the pulpit pimp, honey, he is speaking to his ex-wife Carolyn. Sidebar, I'm like, why is her name Carolyn? Her name should have been Renee, and my fave Felicia Rashad name should have been Carolyn. Okay, the characters. I'm just saying. Carolyn sounds more demure, darling. But anyway, so he's talking to Carolyn, and he's basically letting her know that he's gonna be having like a block party, trying to bring the community together, and I think he said something in reference to having them turn in their weapons and things like that, just trying to clean up the streets. And he wants to assist in any way that he can. And, he ends up asking, his ex-wife in a roundabout way if she would be interested in helping out. And she does. And I'm like, so where is all of this coming from with the two of them? Because the pulpit pimp was just married to old girl who was around here robbing the cradle, okay, screwing up on Jake and all these other young boys. Then he was with Sarah. Now all of a sudden he's trying to get back with his baby mama. Like, make it make sense. Nonetheless, he's able to get her to go along with assisting him at the block party. Emmett is visiting his parents, and he does try to get Jada to go to the block party. He was like, "Mom, you should get out. Get some fresh air and things like that." And Jada was like, "No, I'm not really in the mood. I'm not really feeling that well." And she was like, "Just bring me back some food." And so, Emmett's dad, he decides that he's gonna stay home with Jada as well. And he ends up cutting on some music, and he ends up, starting to dance with his mom or whatnot. And the way that this episode was set up for me, and I guess this is just to get them prepared. It's almost as if they're grieving her, but she's still here. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of the scenes that we got in this episode, it was giving that they were grieving her. And I guess it's just preparedness for them mentally to get themselves ready for what's to come.
I fired that raggedy brother of yours.
You did what?
I figured you couldn't do it since he's your family and all.
Oh, you can't be firing people without running about me first.
Look, you were down for the count. I had to make an executive decision.
Well, I'm back now.
Now I have to say, Shawnita is a mess. Okay, I like Shawnita so far. She is I don't want to say she's giving an Emmett a run for his money, but she's very good with marketing. You know what I'm saying? Like she knows what type of ideas and things to come up with. And the fact that she got rid of Tink Tink, I was here for it, okay, because y'all already know how I feel about him. So you know, Nuck ends up walking into the restaurant and, he's asking Emmett who Shanita is. And, Emmett's like, oh, this is the girl that Keisha hired temporarily, until I got back on my feet, whatever. Even though Emmett's saying that he's back at work now, he's back in action. But he ends up saying to Nuck, well, she fired my brother, so my brother needs a job. Because, Nuck was basically telling Emmett, anything you need, I got you. I'm trying to make sure you good. Because, Nuck was like, dude, you ain't supposed to be out in the streets. You need to be at home resting or whatever, looking after him like it, like Nuck is his big brother. Anyway, Emmett ends up saying to Nuck, hey, can you get my brother a job? My brother's no longer working. And Nuck is like, I'll see what I could do. And, Emmett was like, that would really help me out a lot if you could, basically find someone that is willing to put him to work, no illegal stuff, make sure that it's legit. But, Emmett does ask Nuck to, get his brother placed in some employment. Okay. So Nuck, he goes to see Hannibal, and I think he's just really trying to fill out Hannibal to make sure that he's still on board with setting up Reg, and seemingly Hannibal is okay. And during the conversation, Nuck mentions to Hannibal that Emmett brother needs a job. Like, can you hook Tink Tink up with a job? And Hannibal was like, look, man, I ain't trying to get involved with nothing that dude got going on. Like, And Nuck was like, well, you could look out for him. You watch him get beat up by Reg. And Hannibal was like, yeah, but that ain't had nothing to do with me. Like, he did that to himself. He made that bet. And he know he's soft. He know he a little simp. Like, he need to stop writing checks that his behind can't cash. But ultimately, we do see in the episode that Hannibal does hook Tink Tink up with a job. Okay. So Hannibal, he ends up taking Tink Tink to his warehouse where he is just letting him know, look, you're going to be like the security. You're going to work at night. Don't touch my stuff and don't steal my stuff. He was like, I don't play about my product. If you steal from me, I'm sending the Grim Reaper for you. Like, don't play with me at all. And of course, the first thing that Tink Tink does, he ends up snatching up some mushrooms. Like, dude, this dude just told you don't steal from him. And here you go already putting your hand in a pot. Like, I cannot stand this little boy. I cannot. Okay. The block party has officially started, honey. And Emmett, he goes to check on his booth that he has set up. They have a Smokies booth set up. And Shawnita walks up with this shirt on, and Emmett is not feeling it. But once she break down everything that she trying to do and the type of business she trying to bring to Smokies, baby, Emmett can't do nothing but be like, oh, okay, yeah, that's what's up. So Keisha, she walks up and she says, hey to Shawnita, and, kind of big her up or whatever for doing a good job. And so Emmett, he decides that he's going to go ahead and leave and go check on his mom. So Reg and them, they sitting around talking, and he ends up asking Jackie, how did she become so good with the trigger finger? And, she was just like, she taught herself or whatever. And Hannibal, he's sitting there. He was like, I know how to fight or whatever. And Jackie was like, I don't fight. I'm too pretty to fight. Like, I ain't about to have nobody hit me in my face. And so Reg, he laid back to myself, oh, I can do both. He talking about he know how to pull the trigger and he know how to fight. And so he was like, pause. And so Jackie says to him, some pause is like one of the gayest things that you could ever say. And so we're just like, what did you say? And she's like, you heard me, Negro. So he was like, I'll hit a female or whatever. And so Jackie stands up and Reg gets up in Jackie's face. Like, dude, are you freaking kidding me? But baby, when I tell you she did not flinch, she did not. Okay. So Reg walks over to the window and he looks out of it and he tells Hannibal, hey, come here. And he shows him, he said, that car right there has been sitting out there all day. Somebody watching me. And of course, Hannibal, he plays it to the left because, he doesn't want Reg to suspect anything. He's like, oh man, you're just paranoid. Ain't nobody looking for you. Ain't nobody watching you like that. So later on, Hannibal ends up making a phone call to Nuck and he tells Nuck, hey, let the folks know that Reg is kind of on to him, like he kind of feel like somebody watching him, so y'all may want to move around differently, just to kind of keep Reg from being even more suspicious. Nuck ends up meeting up with Detective Toussaint, and he kind of lets her know, look, if y'all could kind of lay low a little bit with how y'all tracking Reg, like he's starting to notice certain things. So if y'all could kind of fall back just a little bit. And Detective Toussaint was like, I'm doing my job. Just make sure you keep us updated on whatever information you get in reference to Reg's location. Here we have Tink Tink showing up to the block party with stolen goods, okay, with the shrooms that he then snatched up out of Hannibal's warehouse. And, he meets up with Carucci's character, and they end up taking the shrooms and just going on the trip while they there at the block party. So Bakari, he ends up running to Nate at the block party, and he tells her that he misses her. And, she kind of dismisses him like, I'm not trying to do this. It is what it is. And she was like, I just want to make sure that you good and that going to try to stay alive. And Bakari was like, I'm going to do whatever I need to do to stay alive. So while Bakari is trying to get back in Lene's good graces, honey, we got the pulpit pimp and them over here having a good old time, okay? They went in teddy bears, playing games. Papa done won a teddy bear for Kenya. Pulpit pimp done won a bear for his ex-wife. They having a good conversations. And, they're holding hands and dancing and loving up on each other. And we get a moment where, the pulpit pimp and his ex-wife, they have a conversation. And, Carolyn says, she's like, I like Papa. I like him. And Pastor Zeke said, yeah, he's a good kid, really good dude or whatever. And then they go into a little bit of a conversation about Papa's dad. And, the pulpit pimp is like, I'm not trying to replace his dad or anything like that. Just, I don't want it to seem like that. And of course, Carolyn's like, I'm sure Papa understands, you're just being a support sister for him and just basically trying to guide him. So, Pastor Zeke, baby, he gonna slide on in there with that conversation about how you feel about being a first lady again. And the girl was like, well, I wasn't really good at it in the first place. And so, he was like, well, how about us give this another try? And I'm like, hold on. Once you just dealing with your unseasoned chicken, like you was all up on Sarah, like, come on. Okay. So I guess now he's like, my unseasoned chicken after though, let me scoop up on this soul food again. Let me see if I can get, see how I handle this again. Like, are you freaking kidding me? But, you know, he was like, if we don't do it, let's at least do it for Kenya. And Carol's like, why? Kenya is grown. I'm like, girl, Kenya is grown. Kenya done gave birth to a whole Social Security number grown. Okay, okay, no. So, it does seem like the two of them are vibing, Carolyn and Pastor Zeke, and that they are about to give their relationship another try. Okay. So Nuck and Tiff seemingly were hanging out at the block party. And we had this moment where Tiff, she kind of makes this little noise. And Nuck is like, you good? You okay? She's like, yeah, it's just the baby kicking. You want to feel? So Tiff takes Nuck's hand and places it on her belly. And Nuck is feeling the man who he sent to be on a permanent vacation with the Lord's child kick. Like, you got to be freaking kidding me. Like, that's a little diabolical move right there, Nuck. You literally got your hands on Tip's belly after you done sent Rob to be on vacation with the Lord. Are you freaking kidding me? And so Vic ends up seeing this, right? And I feel sorry for Vic because I'm like, him and Tiff was just vibing out. They done kissed and hung out, and all of a sudden, she'd washed his hand. She's a little in her feelings because of the whole situation with Emmett. But Vic sees this, and I'm like, you got to be freaking kidding me. Like, wait till Tiff finds out. Wait till she find out what Nuck really about. Okay. So Reg, and his crew, honey, they send around playing Connect 4. Okay. And he goes into talking about he is going to end up hitting up this jewelry spot because Detective Toussaint, she ends up asking Nuck if Reg is still hitting up ATMs, and of course Nuck, he didn't have that information, but Reg ends up saying that he is going to hit up this jewelry spot, and he tells Jackie that he wants her to come with him, and she was like, all right, cool, but I want 50%. And Reg said the security there or whatever, somebody gonna be watching cameras. And in this moment right here, I was like, yo, somebody about to take the bait. He knew what he was doing. Reg knew exactly what he was doing, and y'all, I don't know how it's gonna end up for my boy Hannibal. Okay, I don't know. Nabu. So Detective Toussaint pays Alicia a visit, and dear, when I tell you I was not prepared for all of the information that she was about to spill, I was not. She told Alicia, she was like, I believe Bakari knows who unalived your son. We found his DNA on the doorstep where they laid your son out like a UPS package, okay? And honey, the look on Alicia's face, she was like, what are you talking about? And the detective lets her know that Bakari is Nuck's right hand. That's his number two. And Alicia was like, Nuck told me that Zane is the one who unalived my son. And the detective was like, no, he didn't have anything to do with it. The detective, while she's talking, she was like, this would make sense as to why Bakari was so willing to give up Reggie's name. Like he just did it so quickly. And of course, because he's tied to Nuck. And so Alicia, she keeps her composure. I'm surprised she did not blow the what up, but she is basically looking at the detective like, okay, so what are you going to do about it? Like, you need to do your job. And the detective is like, we are doing our jobs. And she's like, well, you're not doing it quick enough. Like, I want him up off of the streets. You know what I'm saying? And baby, Alicia, you could just tell she was taken aback by the information that the detective was giving her. So we get a moment with Dom and Jamal. They're back in therapy, just trying to come to an agreement about potentially starting a family. And at some point, Dom, she says that she will consider, becoming a parent. Now, if that's going to consist of her actually having a child or if they're going to adopt or whatever, but she does say that she will consider, them potentially starting a family. So Carolyn gets home and her mom is like, so how was the block party? She's like, you've been gone all day. And she also lets her daughter know, like, Kenya left Miles with me again. She said, honey, I did not come down here on my retirement to be anybody's babysitter. Okay.
Well, it's just a terrible time to come into the office. I'm babysitting my grandchildren. Oh, Cliff, no, he won't mind. I'm sure he would like nothing better than to spend the entire evening with them. Yeah. Oh, okay. All right, listen. I'll be there. I'll be there as soon as I can get there, okay? Bye-bye. Oh.
Hey, look at you. That's what I like about twins. One for you and one for me. What's happening, homie? And what's the matter with this one?
This one is sad.
Really? Smells all right to me. Oh, isn't this gonna be fun tonight? The
Sweetie,
two of us.
I gotta go to the office. You're gonna have to take care of him by
Really?
yourself. Yeah, Ted Hanley's not feeling well, and I've got to go prepare his brief.
Look at this. Laughing at Grandpa. Go ahead, give Grandpa a laugh. Yeah.
So, honey, Grandma Nay, she basically tells her daughter, she's like, you still smitten by, Pastor Zeke. And, she makes a comment like, y'all have a daughter together, y'all have a grandchild together, like a lot of history between the two of you. And the daughter, she does tell her mom that she is considering, picking up. I don't even think she want to pick up where they left off, but basically starting over with, Pastor Zeke. And, she says that, but she feels like Pastor Zeke has been doing well without her. And Grandma Nay was like, honey, just because you on TV and got money, that none of that don't mean anything if you're dying inside. Like, it don't mean anything. So I like the relationship that the two of them have with each other. And like I said, Grandma Nay, she just seemed like she liked Zeke. You know what I'm saying? Like she seems like she just like him for her daughter. And I wonder if that has to do with the fact that her daughter cheated on him. You know what I'm saying? Because of the way that he works and how he puts his church and everything first. But you can still tell that Grandma Nay, she kind of, she sees it for her daughter and the pulpit pimp. Okay.
The white girl dumped him.
Oh, this is working out exactly as the Lord intended.
The Lord or you?
I'm just trying to be faithful and obedient.
You've never been obedient a day in your life.
Emmett and his dad, they're having a conversation, about everything that's going on with Jada. And it's just like, again, for me, it's like they are already grieving her, even though she's still around. but I think it's just going to be a coping mechanism for what's to come, when everything actually happens with Jada. And, they are just trying to figure out how they're going to deal with it.
How you holding up, son? Not great. Yeah, me either. What are we gonna do without her? I don't know. She's the first woman I ever loved. Yeah, she always be with your son.
Honey, the look on Bakari's face when he realized he could not retrieve any funds from his scholarship, baby, he is definitely learning that bacon is greasy. When I tell you Alicia is a viper, honey, she moves quick and quiet, okay? He was not expecting his money to be 86, okay? So Keisha, she's talking to Jada and she says to her, do you think I'm wrong for turning down Emmett's proposal? She was just like, marriage is sacred and that's just something I don't want to take lightly. I just really want him to mean it, when he proposes. And, she and Jada, they're having a conversation and Jada, she says to Keisha, she's like, you are the strongest woman I know. And, she pretty much bigs up Keisha and she says, I'm glad that you're going to be taking my place, because they talk about the women's group and things like that. They also mention, bringing the women group to Jada's house, just so she could participate. And, but, Jada, she just tells Keisha that she's always liked her and she appreciates her. And they go back to this moment where Keisha said, I remember that time you found me under Emmett's bed. Like, girl, you was all up in this woman's house. And she said, I remember you didn't even kick me out. She said, you actually offered me breakfast. That's just the type of person Jada is, excuse me. And Jada was like, well, I was young once, I know what's up, it is what it is. And, I like that they had this moment between them. And I really do not want Jada off the show. Like, Jada is an OG. Like, yeah, I don't want to see Jada go. I really like Jada, but Keisha, she just tells Jada, thank you for being who you are to me. You know what I'm saying? In so many words, just she really appreciates her, and she does tell her that she's gonna miss her. So Vic and Tip are at the lounge, and Tip is giving him all types of attitude. He was humming, and she was like, when I got here today, everything was a mess. She was like, you forgot to put out the new rolls or something, and he was just apologizing, being real calm. And he was like, are we okay? She was like, I didn't hire you for you to be in here humming and this and that and third. I hired you to keep an eye on the lounge and to make sure everything is in order. And he's just kind of taken aback, like, dang, like, do I even still need to be here? And he was like, when she mentioned about humming, he was like, oh, it just helps me get through the day. And Tiff was like, so what, you don't want to be here anymore? He was like, no, that's not what I'm saying. Like, girl, get off my back. But honey, when I tell you Tiff, she is really just being real nasty to him. And I get it. She's hormonal. She's pregnant, but I didn't appreciate the way that she was talking to Vic. I understand she's upset that he did not, disclose his brother's location to her because, of what happened with Emmett. But she was just completely out of order the way that she was talking to Vic. Okay. So, honey, as we see, Tiff is giving Vic the business and not in a good way. Okay. So, he's back at home. He's talking to Shad. Shad is cooking. By the way, we got to see Shad meet a woman at the block party. She was selling candles, and we got to see him exchange numbers with her. So, we'll see how that turns out. But anyway, Vic, he's picking Shad's brain. He was like, what is it like working with Alicia now that y'all are no longer together and it's just strictly business? And Shad was like, look, as long as the check clear and she ain't talking to me out the side of her neck, it's all good. It is what it is. Like, he basically like, I can separate business from pleasure. When it comes to, he like, I gotta get paid. You know what I'm saying? So, and we know why Vic is asking these questions to Shad, because he's trying to see how things are gonna turn out between he and Tiff. You know what I'm saying? And he and Shad, they get into the conversation about that, about how Tiff is upset that Vic did not tell him that Reg was, around or whatever, still alive. And Sharp was like, you ain't even tell me. He was like, shoot, you can't tell women everything, like she just tripping or whatever, and Tiff pregnant, the hormones and whatnot. So Vic, he ends up asking Shad, he was like, did Alicia try to 86 my brother? And Shad was like, yeah, she thought that he had something to do with what happened to her son. And Vic was like, but Reg don't even know Rob. And, Shad was like, look, I didn't know she was going to act like that. I didn't know she was going to go out and pull the trigger on him like that or whatever. So, Vic, he's just trying to figure out, what is going to happen between him and Tiff. You know what I'm saying? He basically says to Shad that he washed his hands with the situation with Reg. And I think he's just concerned about, what's going to happen between him and Tiff. And, it is what it is at this moment. He does say to, because Shad was like, what you going to do about Tiff? And he was like, ain't nothing I can do, just basically make sure she good, make sure she's straight. So Hannibal texts Nuck and let him know about the jewelry store that Reg and Jackie was supposed to hit up. And in this moment, I was like, yo, this is too easy. Like, they are about to run up on Reg like this. Like, they about to get Reg just this quick. Boy, was I wrong. Okay.
I don't like rats.
You like being alive?
Don't get us killed fucking with Reg.
So here these fools go running through the jewelry store, smashing, bashing, and snatching. And I was like, yo, it cannot be this easy. Like, you are not about to tell me they about to snatch Reg up just this quick. And sure enough, they did not. Okay? Like, honey, when Detective Toussaint and them pulled them masks down off those people's face and neither one of them was Reg or Jackie, I was like, yo, he set them up. He set Hannibal up. Maybe he don't know it's Hannibal who's the snitch, but he knew exactly what he was doing. I would be surprised if he say, oh, I decided to send so-and-so instead. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't feel like that was the play. I feel like Reg intentionally said that because he was trying to see who was the snitch amongst the group. And I think maybe, and I could be completely wrong, it has to do with the fact that Hannibal told him he was being paranoid about somebody out there watching him. Like, he tried to play it to the left, like it really wasn't that serious. So I don't know if that is the case, or if Reg gonna be like, well, I decided not to go, just to let my boys handle it or whatever. I just don't know, but something is definitely up, and I cannot wait to see what the outcome is going to be. Okay. So, of course, Detective Toussaint, she hits Nuck up and, like, basically letting him know it wasn't Reg that they were able to apprehend, And I'm wondering, y'all, I don't want nothing to happen to Hannibal. I like Hannibal. But I do have a feeling that Reg is about to send Hannibal on over with the Grim Reaper. I feel like either Reg is going to do it or he going to have that girl Jackie do it because, like she said, she don't miss. So I'm wondering if he is about to send Hannibal to be on a permanent vacation with the Lord. I really got a feeling that that's what's about to happen. I could be wrong, but yeah, this whole jewelry store heist and the fact that, man, come on now. Yeah, Reg see the play and Hannibal about to get played. Okay. Honey, the look on Bakari's face when Alicia looked at him and she said to him, I know you know who unalived my son. And if you do not tell me who did it, I am booking you a one-way ticket to Hallelujah Square. Only difference is I will have you buried in my backyard. Baby, when I tell you she meant every word, she did. Okay. Baby, when I tell you Bakari holds heart dropped to his stomach in this moment. Okay, I'm gonna just tell y'all how he felt. Okay, because we done all had that heart drop to our stomach moment, and baby, this was definitely Bakari's. I do not know how this is gonna end. When I tell you, Alicia, do not play the radio. Bakari, oh my God, dear, I told you you were playing with fire, and unfortunately, you are definitely about to get burned. I am curious as to how quickly he is going to sail Nuck down the river, or how quickly Alicia is going to send him, Bakari, down the river. Okay, like, what is going to be his out? What is going to be his, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, y'all don't understand. Like, Bakari really, really got himself in a serious conundrum. Think about the fact that you got Professor Gardner. You know, he looks out for Bakari, you know, want to make sure that Bakari is walking a straight path. And then you got Professor Gardner's wife, who is friends with Alicia. Like, y'all, it's just a lot. Like I said, so many hands in the pot. You got Nook, you got Tiff, you got Emmy, you got Keish, Bakari. Oh my, y'all, Bakari made it last season by the skin of his teeth, because y'all already know I thought Doodle was about to be done with Bakari and send him on his way, if you know what I mean. So I'm like, come on. It always happens when the person is trying to get their life together and things like that. Y'all can't touch Bakari. Oh, he just, I really don't. I really, really feel sorry for him, because he really, really got himself in a bad spot. You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, he did have opportunity to, you know, let Alicia know what was what, especially when he got that scholarship from her. You know, it took me a minute for it to click down, like, okay, Bakari do know who Alicia is. He does understand and know that Alicia was Rob's mom. You know, like, oh, Bakari, baby, if these are your growing pains, baby, you gonna have to go through it. Ooh, y'all, I cannot wait to see the outcome of this, because when I tell you, you know, if I'm being honest, even if Bakari tells the truth, I think Alicia, she's filled with so much vitriol. She probably still gonna have Bakari, or she probably gonna send Bakari on a permanent vacation with the Lord. I really just do not see her letting him stay alive, unless it's because she does not want to put another mother in the situation that she is currently in, even though we already know Bakari, we ain't never seen his mama, you know. So, and you know, at that moment when she was like, remember when they were on the yacht, it's just like, you know, she looks at him like a son. You know, she was very proud of him, a proud mama, you know, when he was talking about doing his book and things like that. Oh my gosh, I don't know what's gonna happen. Oh my gosh, this is so crazy. So many thoughts, but we shall see. We shall see. Well, that's all I have for you guys in this video. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I really, really, really appreciate the support, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.